Hey everyone. Hey everyone. My name is Brooke Bendix. I am the founder of Therapyology and licensed clinical social worker. Uh, I'm here with Leah Blatnikoff.
Hi, my name is Leah. I am a licensed clinical social worker at Therapyology, and we are here today to talk about all things family holidays. So, navigating family holidays, whether you come from a typical nuclear family or you are experiencing some strained relationships with family members, or your family looks a little bit different. So, we are here to talk all about how to navigate that and what that looks like.
And we have a special guest today here with us. This is Boo. He is a therapy dog in training. He will come and go. So we are going to start off by talking about specifically uh, Mother's Day and Father's Day, and how to go about managing and coping with these particular holidays if you don't have an intact family or one or both of these parents around, and some tips and advice as to how to go about these holidays when that's what your life currently looks like. So, where do we want to begin?
I think we can kind of start by touching on, no matter what your family looks like, whether it is that typical nuclear family or things look a little different, it's not bad, right? It's so easy to compare yourself to someone else's family and someone else's experience, and your situation and experience is unique to you. And just being able to navigate that can be tricky. So maybe kind of starting there and how to navigate maybe not comparing yourself to other people and what their families may look like.
Leah and I are both licensed clinical social workers who work almost exclusively with kids, teens, and young adults. And we both specialize in working with children and teens who have gone through family trauma and a change in the family dynamics. And I know that, Leah, you personally have experienced a divorce in your family. So tell us a little bit about how old you were when your parents got divorced and how that changed your family dynamic.
Yeah, so I was in the sixth grade when my parents got divorced. I want to say I was about 10 years old. And when I found out, I was not thrilled, to say the least. Um, and it was really weird at first, just being able to navigate not only going to different houses, but Mother's Day and Father's Day and just family holidays and other holidays. It was definitely interesting to see how things played out that first year, and what parent I spent what holidays with. And I think the biggest thing overall is that I gained a lot of independence from the situation. I really, especially as the older sibling, had to take it upon myself to kind of coordinate and say, okay, we need to get a Mother's Day gift or we need to get a Father's Day gift, because it was no longer my mom buying it for my dad. It was me kind of figuring it out and saying, what do we want to get? And then going to my mom and asking for help, or vice versa. So I really think it put me in a situation to where I gained a lot of independence. And the biggest thing was really standing up for myself as well, So if I felt like, I need to see both parents on, a certain holiday, or if new people came into the mix and I needed to be with both families, just being able to navigate that and really stand up for myself and what I thought was right and create boundaries where I needed to was probably the biggest shift, I would say. Really just being able to step up to the plate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be really hard on a family, and shifting into this new normal, especially when Mother's Day and Father's Day come
Mm-hmm.
around, and how you have to, navigate that,
Yeah.
especially as a tween in middle school.
Yeah. I definitely think there were times that I had conversations with my parents or with my family in general just about things that the average middle schooler wouldn't really have had to have. Um, and whether it is just figuring out a gift or it's figuring out where I'm going to be or who I'm going to be with, or again, voicing my own opinion on where I think I should be. It's definitely something that I experienced at a really young age, especially as the older sibling in that situation too. I think for the most part, my brother just kind of followed whatever I did. So I was really the advocate for both of us during that time. And I think things definitely shifted when both of my parents had significant others. I think learning to navigate that was also a new experience, especially because I then had step parents in the mix and I wanted them to feel valued and respected and appreciated as well. So it definitely was just about finding a balance with things, and being able to be with both families as much as I could. And I think the biggest thing I realized was that it's not about right or wrong necessarily, because there's so many different ways to navigate the situation. I think it was just about the words that I shared and how I showed my appreciation. So if you're dealing with a situation where both your parents want you on the same day, you can't be in two places at once, but you can use your words and you can share how much you love and respect and appreciate that person. And that if you could be in two places at one, you would, but it doesn't define the relationship that you have necessarily.
Yeah, it's really important.
Brooke, I know you have also dealt with your own experiences,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the loss of your dad at a young age.
Yeah.
How how were you able to navigate not only that loss, but really Father's Day and other
Mm-hmm.
family holidays where it would have been about him, or you would have been surrounded by him, or he just would have been present?
Yeah. I think what a family goes through with divorce changes the family dynamic in a very different way than what a family goes through with the death of a parent, whether it be mother or father, and how that shifts and how that changes for kids. Right? I was 16, a junior in high school, when my dad passed away. And I remember in high school and even in college having to go through Father's Day and thinking about, well, I don't have to go and pick out a Father's Day card. And what is it like that my father's not around, yet everybody else is celebrating their fathers and going out to dinner? And it's the same for those who don't have mothers around, really. So it's, you know, a tough thing for a kid or a teen or even a young adult, and even an adult, to deal with, with a family that's not intact anymore. So I know that, Father's Day was especially tough for me and my siblings and my family to go through. And I know that every Father's Day I do something for myself and self-care, that I recognize the time that I had with my father when he was alive, and that I try not to fall into comparison traps
Yeah.
of what it's like, how other kids who have gone through something similar, and those who don't have a father or a mother, and they're going through, celebrating Father's and Mother's Day with buddy. Hey, okay, come on, buddy, boo boo. Okay, okay, we're talking about serious stuff here. Are you gonna behave? Okay. Okay, you're gonna stay. You're gonna stay. So, as I was mentioning, that having to go through all of that at a very young age changes you and really does shape the person that you are. But I think especially being able to have the supports that friends and other family members is so important. And also, I'm sure Leah, you could probably speak to this too, is at the age that I was at, I mental health wasn't as talked about as it is now. So now there's a lot more mental health support and treatment and places to go when you have the loss of a parent or going through a divorce in the family, where it's much more acceptable and talked about to get that mental health support and treatment. Yeah. And I know that, it's something that you're passionate about just as a therapist.
Yeah.
You're going to, okay. Okay.
He says, I stay here.
Okay. I know, but you're come here. Off the couch. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. He's gonna stay right here.
Okay.
Okay.
You kind of mentioned trying not to play the comparison game, and that is a huge, huge thing for me. When I was in high school, social media became very popular. It's when everyone started having Instagram and Snapchat, and then it went from being just Facebook to all these different apps and all these different platforms. With all these different platforms came all these opportunities to see what everybody else was doing on Mother's and Father's Day and what everyone else's families looked like. And you see all these posts about, oh my gosh, like you're my best friend, or we do all of this together. And it's so easy to compare yourself. And I remember in high school, my family went through so many changes, and comparing myself in my family on social media to others was really difficult. And I really had to come to a point where, on Mother's and Father's Day, I try not to check social media as much. And that's not to say that I don't love all the parental figures in my life, because I'm so grateful to have the parental figures that I do, and I have great relationships with all of them. But it is different, and it has been difficult to navigate growing up. And we live in a world where with the click of a button, you can so easily compare yourself and your situation to someone else. So I, like you, try to do some self-care on those days as much as I do try to honor those people in my lives on those days too. And I just have to remind myself that just because my situation looks different doesn't mean it's necessarily negative. If anything, my parents' divorce has brought additional parental figures into my life that I'm extremely grateful for. And I now have 4 people to go to instead of 2, so finding the positive in the situations is a really, really great thing to do. But it can be difficult, especially when that relationship may not be positive and it may be more strained.
Yeah. I think, setting healthy boundaries around these particular holidays with Mother's Day and Father's Day, whether you have a parent in which you have a strained relationship with, or are you leaving? Okay, bye. Whether you have a parent that you have a strained relationship with, or a parent who is no longer living, that boundaries and taking care of yourself is key, because it's easy to kind of be consumed with social media and see what everyone else is doing on these days and the parents that they have or the intact families that they have. And it's easy to fall into that comparison trap and what I don't have. And it's hard. And I know, like you said, these holidays have been hard for you as they've been hard for me. And even sometimes going and picking out Father's Day cards or not having to pick out Father's Day cards has been something that is a trigger and can be a trigger in this is really a time to reflect on what you do have, not necessarily what you don't have, and know that there are people that are like you, that have gone through experiences that you've gone through too. um, and that's important to know, because I think, Lee, I'm sure when you were in middle school, how
Yeah.
many other people did you know that were experiencing and going through a family divorce? Just like when I was in high school, I actually had a couple close friends who had lost parents and knew that they just understood. They got what I was going through. And it's so helpful and significant to know that there are people you feel connected to because they've
Mm-hmm.
experienced what you've experienced.
Yeah, when I was in middle school, I think I knew one person who had parents that were divorced, and that was really it. And it was a really lonely situation. And that's not to say that my friends weren't supportive and that they weren't willing to be there for me, because they were, but it was lonely and it was really tricky to navigate. And, kind of like you said earlier, mental health was not the same back then as it is now. The amount of options that there are now and places to go is extraordinary, but it just wasn't like that when I was in middle school. So I think the combination of maybe not having a place to go or a person to go to made it a really lonely and isolating situation for me. And that's a big part of the reason of why I do what I do. Um, because I want to be there for people who are in situations like I was, and I know what it's like to go through those situations and to have to navigate them and take things as they come and go with the ever changing life that it is. Um, so that's a really big reason behind what I do, and why I do specialize in working with children of divorce and families of divorce, because I do have that firsthand experience, and while it may have been kind of negative and isolating beforehand, it's such a different world now. And I'm so proud of what I have been through now. And it just gives me that aspect of relatability. And I I'm very transparent. Most of my clients of divorce know that this is a situation that I've dealt with too. And it really makes it so that I can just build a different kind of rapport. Um, but yeah, it brings a little bit of passion into what I do.
I think if I was going through now what I went through when I was 16, I would give the advice and support to my younger self that, boundaries are huge, and taking care
Yeah.
of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and with the puppy are all so vital and so important when you're going through something like a tragedy and a loss of a parent or the loss of an intact family, and how to heal. There is no playbook, there's no guidebook. It's,
Yeah.
a matter of taking it one step at a time, one day at a time, and finding the right supports that you need. And that's a huge part in why Leah does the work that she does, and why we do the work that we do here at Therapyology, to really help and support kids and teens and families who are going through difficult times and struggling. And that's just a big part of why we love the work that we do. So if you are struggling during Mother's Day, Father's Day, or looking for support and help, feel free to